Thank you for coming. My name is Gerard Mitchell, and I'm chairperson of the Prince Edward Island Electoral Boundaries Commission, which is established under the Electoral Boundaries Act. I'd like to introduce the other four members of the commission. To my immediate right here is Lynn Murray, QC, and my far right is Libby Shaw. On my immediate left, Kerry Carpenter, and on my far left, Elmer MacDonald. I'm going to make just a few remarks and then give you, the members of the public, the opportunity to make submissions or ask questions or state your views. We're very much here to receive your input and advice. The function of the Commission is to review the 27 electoral districts of the province and to make a report to the Legislative Assembly setting out recommendations for changes as to area boundaries and names of electoral districts. In determining the area to be included in and fixing the boundaries of a district, the Commission is required by the Electoral Boundaries Act to take into consideration the following factors: the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, data from the Register of Electors, polling divisions from the most recent general election, geographical features, information pertaining to population, community of interest, municipal boundaries, public input, and any guidelines or criteria proposed for consideration by resolution of the Legislative Assembly. In addition, the Commission is allowed to take into account any other factors it considers relevant. As part of the process, the Commission is required to hold public meetings such as this one throughout the province to enable people to make representations as to the area and boundaries of any district. We have scheduled 14 meetings to hear from people across the province, and I think this may be the 7th. The Commission is to make its report to the Legislative Assembly within 6 months of establishment. That would take us up to June 6th. There's also provision in the Act for an extension of time, but I'm hoping that we will not require that. The recommendations of the last Electoral Boundaries Commission were not accepted by the legislature, but here I want to stress a significant difference from those previous reports. This time, the Legislative Assembly is required by law to accept the recommendations of the Commission. Accordingly, it is important for people to make their views and concerns known to the Commission while there is still time to do so. It is also important to recognize that the boundaries we set are intended to last through 3 election cycles. So we must bear in mind population trends as well as present numbers. The Commission has no authority to add to or subtract from the number of districts. That stays at 29. We are concerned only with changes to the areas, boundaries, and names of the 27 existing districts. We have no mandate beyond that. As you can see, the Commission has brought 3 maps to this meeting, which are on the wall to my left. One shows the present boundaries of the 27 districts. The other 2 maps are examples of what the 27 districts could possibly look like, given that there is clearly a need for change. The 2 sample maps are intended only to engage discussion at these public meetings. Neither of these maps have been adopted, even provisionally, by the Commission. A final map might and probably will look quite different from either of those. The colored districts on the 2 sample maps are the possible new districts. The heavy black outlines is the outlay of the existing districts. That's so you can more easily see how they were adjusted. When I say changes are necessary to the boundaries, it is because some districts are presently have far too many electors, and others have far too few. Presently, we have about 100,000 electors registered in the province. If we were to make all districts equal, each would have about 3,700 electors. The average number of electors is important because the discretion of the Commission is constrained by both the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and by the Electoral Boundaries Act itself. The Charter, which is the supreme law of the land, requires that any deviations from the average must be justified on the ground that such deviation contributes to the better government of the population as a whole, giving due regard to regional issues within that population. The Electoral Boundaries Act, on the other hand, provides that no district can be above or below the average by more than 25%. At present, 3 districts are more than 25% above or below the average, and Stratford is one of them, which is about 45% above the average. District 9 is about 35, and District 24 is 28. 5 more districts are over 20%, 4 more are over 15%, and 1 more is over 10%. This means that at least 13 districts in the province could easily be considered as currently too big or too small. Keep in mind that the Supreme Court of Canada, in interpreting the right to vote in Section 3 of the Charter, has decided that the only variances allowable in the context of electoral boundaries are those that can be justified in the name of more effective representation for the population as a whole. Voter parity is of prime importance, but the Supreme Court also acknowledges that it is not the only factor to be taken into account. Effective representation is the overall goal, and it cannot be achieved without taking into account countervailing factors such as municipal boundaries, population growth and decline, community history, group identity, minority language and culture. Numbers are important in establishing electoral boundaries, but establishing electoral boundaries is not simply a numbers exercise. At the end of the day, the goal is effective representation. There may well be factors that justify departure from parity. Not everything that counts can be counted. Now, I've finished shortly, but before I do that, I want to introduce to you our mapper, Terry Scott, here. And if during the course of evening you would like him to try to move around some of these boundaries that he'll show you on the map to what you think would be better or what they should look like, he will try and do that for us. So please feel free to ask Terry to do that. I'm reminded here that I may have used the term 29 districts. There are 27 districts in the province, and there will be 27 at the end of the day. We're not allowed to add 2 more or take any away. 27 today, 27 at the end of our exercise. Thank you, and now I'll invite you to come and take the mic. Please identify yourself first, because everything is recorded for the public record. And we look forward to hearing you.
I'll turn around.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
There are paperless here. Paperless meetings here. I'm going to do this too in advance here. Thank you. Presentation stuff there on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So my name is David Dunphy, and I'm here representing the town of Stratford. I want to welcome you here tonight, and very happy to have you here tonight. I know we had a storm, I guess 4 weeks ago, or more than 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, I guess tonight, on Valentine's Day. So maybe that's not a good idea to have these things on Valentine's Day in the future in Stratford anyways. So thank you for the opportunity to provide input into your deliberations on the boundaries of Highland electoral districts. I am here on behalf of the residents and the council of the town of Stratford. Presently, there is one electoral district that is located completely within the boundaries of the town, District 6, Stratford Kinloch, and one that includes a portion of the District 5, Burn River, Stratford. The district of Stratford Kinloch currently has 5,317 electors as of the last election, which is 43.7% higher than the average district size of 3,698 electors, the highest variance in the province. And I apologize if I'm going to talk about numbers, but I'm going to talk about numbers for a while here. The following, as everyone knows, there's been tremendous growth in Stratford. We've had a lot of growth over the last, we'll say, 20 years. And we're projecting growth to continue. The following table illustrates the change in the number of electors for the two districts that include the town of Stratford during the last 3 provincial elections. So if you can see that up on the board there, the district in 2007, District 5 had a variance of minus 7.7, and District 6, which was entirely included in Stratford, had a variance of 11.9%, and that was the first election after the last redrawing of the boundaries. And I'll make note that 11 years ago, when this previous Electoral Boundaries Commission had hearings, the town made a presentation at that time, and at that time our population was probably 7,500 or something like that, and we had proposed splitting the town into 2 sections, including outlying areas, so that the growth would be fairly evenly distributed in the 2 districts, of which comprise parts of Stratford in each district. However, there was a different decision in the end there. So as you can see here, in 2007, District 6 had 11.9% variance, in 2011, 26.5%, and of course, 2015, 42.8% or 43%. So the number of electors in District 6 in 2015 is almost double the number of electors in District 24 in 2015, which was 2,654 electors in District 24. That means that 1 vote in District 24 is equal to 2 votes in the majority of the town of Stratford, which is unfair, undemocratic, and unconstitutional. Clearly, in order to comply with the legislated variance of plus or minus 25%, the boundaries of District 5 must be adjusted. We're surrounded by District 5. Since Stratford was formed, it has been the fastest growing municipality on PEI by far, and in the census that was just released last month, the fastest growing municipality of size population greater than 5,000 in the Maritime Provinces. We grew by 13.2% in the last 5 years. The previous 5 years, in the 2011 census population, was 22% in that 5-year period, ending 2011. Since the last electoral boundary change in 2006, the population of Stratford grew by 37%. We have every reason to believe that the population growth will continue at this strong pace based on past and planned development activity in the town. In fact, an independent consultant who conducted a housing needs study for us in 2011 predicted that the population in Stratford would exceed 16,500 by 2031, as shown in the following table. And if you look at this table, if you just scroll down to Stratford, the Stratford numbers for 2006, 2011 and 2031 are there. 2006 and 11 are the historical. On the right-hand column, you'll see total column, 7,095 in 2006, 8,565 in 2011. We now know the 2016 number of approximately 10,000, and 2031 at 16,500. Now, this is a projection from almost 6 years ago. However, it does demonstrate the growth that's taking place. Town staff have recently completed a slightly more conservative population estimate based on the latest census information and anticipated growth in single and multi-family dwelling units, which is attached in Appendix A, and I won't go through all that. but we basically took the increase in single-family, multi-unit dwellings to come up with a conservative population projection going forward. And so in order to ensure the relative parity of voting by the third election after the boundary adjustment, given the forecast of continued strong growth of the town, we recommend that the number of electors for Stratford districts be set below the average number of electors. We estimate that there are approximately 6,400 electors within the geographical boundaries of the town. Given the predicted growth of the town, we recommend that the town be split into 2 districts, wholly contained within the town, which would each have approximately 3,200 electors. The following table shows the forecast growth in the number of electors using the more conservative population forecast for the town from Appendix A, and using a 1.011 growth in the average number of electors from the past 3 elections. One can see that even starting at 14% below the average number of electors now, the proposed 2 Stratford districts are forecast to be close to the 25% variance by the time the next boundary adjustment. So you can see in 2016, the current number of electors is approximately 3,200. We know that the average across the province is 3,700, so that's a variance of minus 14%. But in projecting the numbers forward, in the 2019 election will be minus 7% in both districts, we hope. Second election, 3% over. Third election, 15% over. And then 2029, 22% over when we're doing the boundary review. We note also that municipal boundaries are one of the factors that the Commission is mandated to consider. A copy of a map showing 2 proposed districts for Stratford contained entirely within the boundaries of the town is attached in Appendix B. Maybe I'll get just fast forward to that. So this is what we're proposing. If the Commission determines that the number of electors in Stratford has not yet reached the point to support 2 districts entirely within the town, then we recommend that the town be split relatively evenly into 2 districts, with the remainder of each district made up of electors outside of the town who share a community of interest with town electors. We've attached a table which shows a table of the registrants of our recreation programs to show you where they reside, and most of them, of course, live in Stratford, but some come from Mermaid, Mount Herbert, Pownal, Fort Augustus, Johnson's River, etc. As you can see from the table, there's a strong community of interest within Stratford and surrounding communities, as evidenced by the enrollment of persons in our recreation programs. The town is also the regional service center for area residents. One can also see this community of interest in school boundaries, church boundaries, the Crossroads Rural Community Fire Company service area, sport groups, and other organizations. District 5 stretches from Stratford in the west of the district to beyond Orwell in the east of the district. District 7 stretches from Mount Herbert in the southeast of the district to past Morel in the northeast of the district. Stratford has little in common, however, with Morel, other than I was born in Morel or lived in Morel most of my life, Mount Stewart or Orwell, and the rural area that surrounds these communities. There's also another element to the demographic picture in Stratford that bears consideration, and that is the growing immigrant population. The majority of new immigrant population is settling in either Charlottetown or Stratford. Ensuring that this emergent voice is heard once they gain citizenship is another reason to confine the 2 Stratford districts to the boundaries of the town, to ensure that the emergent voice of our newest islanders is also represented. We note that the proposed maps that were released by the Commission continue with the approach of 1 mainly urban riding and 1 mixed urban and rural riding for the Stratford area, and not the more balanced approach that we are advocating. The Electoral Boundaries Act sets the variance at plus or minus 25%, which means that the legislation allows a given district to have up to 50% more electors than another district when the boundaries are redrawn. This tolerance for variation is arguably excessive because it allows a considerable distortion of representation by population. This can become even more distorted in a fast-growing community like Stratford, where the variance from the average will likely grow faster than other districts. In our own election bylaw, we set the variance at plus or minus 10%. Granted, we only have 3 districts, to ensure that all electors have have relatively equal representation. We thank you for this opportunity to present our position with respect to electoral boundaries for Stratford. In summary, we recommend that the town be split into 2 districts, wholly contained within the town. The number of electors in the Stratford districts be set below the average number of electors in order to ensure that the variance from the average number of electors remains within the plus or minus 25% legislative variance before the next electoral boundary review, and to ensure that the emerging new immigrant population has a voice. And if you just look at the map there, so we have split it into 2, contained completely within the town. I mean, that's just a discussion point, but there's lots of things you can do with that. You can extend the district to the north there, all the way to Fullerton's Marsh potentially. It's a natural water boundary going south as well. So we're definitely open to discussion, but we feel that the growing population of Stratford and the experience we've had in the last 10 or 11 years with the growth and the District 6 being the large district that it is, that if we split it in 2, it kind of splits the growth into 2 districts rather than all in 1 district. So I thank you for your time, and good luck in your deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Further submissions or other?
So Keith McLean, I am a councillor, and it's kind of a follow-up, but I'm happy to hear that you're talking about you're going to look at trends, and I know you didn't do these maps, but it's interesting that District 6, which is the growing one, is starting off at the top. They're on one map, it's the most electors starting off, and the other one it's slightly less, and so it doesn't seem to bring in the trends, and I know you weren't doing that. And the mayor said about the highest in the Maritimes, we're actually the 2nd highest in growth in Atlantic Canada, next to Paradise, Newfoundland. And as a chair of planning, I know the growth in this year, the amount of applications coming in already, that Stratford is going to continue to grow. We have subdivision applications in, permits are up again this year over last year. So the trend is continuing. So if you're looking at trends, it does make sense that Stratford actually starts smaller than larger.
One of the things that the commission has done is ask the, don't go away, was to ask the municipalities to provide us with information about plans and developments that are in there.
Okay.
So if you could pass that information along to Mr. Allen at Elections PEI, that would be very helpful.
Okay, and what would you need by because at this stage, a lot of it is confidential information that we can't release. Can we? But then I can give you the numbers of units that are already applied for.
Yes, I think that would be helpful.
Thank you.
And maybe location of them, like where are they?
Yes, that might. My fellow commissioner brings up another point that where, not only how many there are, but where they are is important to know. Yeah.
The major subdivisions are like a couple because most of them newer
You go
subdivisions.
ahead.
I guess our other question, sorry if I could just, for mayor and councillors would be, and if you could provide this information to us at some point, Mr. Mayor. As a resident of Stratford myself, I'm aware of a couple of new subdivisions that are, or extensions to subdivisions, but it would be helpful if we had information about that, you know, new large subdivisions and where they're going, you know, in case we, you know, want to look at these particular boundaries you've proposed.
Yeah, we'll certainly provide you with whatever information you want. We have a couple of subdivisions sort of percolating now on the docket that haven't been approved yet, but so once we have more information on that, we'll definitely get that information to you, give you the unit, number of units, potential population in that subdivision, and where it is. Okay? Or anything else? Anything else you want, we'll provide it.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask you another question? Sure. You mentioned the fire district. Can you tell me where that is, or can you provide that information to us as well?
I can provide you the information. I can't tell you exactly where it goes and stops and starts and stops. I bet you Minister McCausey probably could, because it's mostly in his district. It goes out towards Fort Augustus and out towards Johnson's River, goes out to Johnson's River, and Mount Albion Urban. There you go. See, we'll get that information at the fire district for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll have 3 districts when we're done.
Yeah, Mike Chapman. I'm on the Keppoch Road, and right now I am in Unit District 5. I'm here to support Mayor Dunphy in what he said. I didn't realize you were going to say it, but I really want to emphasize the difference between the urban and rural representation. I identify with Stratford, even though I live in Unit 5. I'm concerned about issues like the sewer, infrastructure, and things pertaining to the town, which I go to my good friend here for, even James, even though I don't live in, he doesn't represent me. So I'm really making an issue that rural people have totally different issues than urban people have. Rural folks are into farming, schools, the internet access. We have that. My concern is, what do we do with our sewer? And I want to be represented by urban folk and not rural. Thank you. No disrespect.
Well, keep it coming. Mr. Mayor, you mentioned, and it's the immigrant population that's comes to Stratford, and Mary's a Charlottetown. Could you tell us a bit more about the impact of that so far and what you see from that in the future? Because I think the province intends to keep going on the immigration file, keep bringing people if they can.
Well, we certainly in Stratford are trying to build a welcoming community here. Obviously, our proximity to Charlottetown is a huge advantage to us in terms of where people decide to live. We have had a huge influx of newcomers to our town. Unfortunately, they don't necessarily vote, so they're not in your numbers. Eventually, hopefully. We want to keep them here, obviously, and so we're doing our best to get people to move to PEI and stay here. We just need things like representation at the legislature and schools and things like that. So, but I think we're going to see, I feel that going forward, there's definitely a push at the provincial level to increase our population. So I think that's going to continue. There's been in the last year, I'll say, a fairly year and a half, a major influx of our newcomers again, like there were in the late 2010, 2010. So I think that's going to continue, and I think their voice, as the gentleman just said earlier, there's urban issues and rural issues, and in the urban area like Stratford, we have a lot of the sewer issues, a big issue, obviously, schools. And of course, if we have a lot of newcomers in our a diverse population, they need to be represented as well. And if they're represented, by a person from their area, I think they would get better representation than if they were for someone from the rural area. Nothing against rural. I grew up.
Hearings has suggested that a member from a blended district, if I can call it that, has a sort of a built-in conflict of interest. Would you agree with that?
Well, I don't want to touch that one. I think the problem, I think that the gentleman here he said it. He said, Mike, yeah, I don't. He said it perfectly. I mean, his issue, and I live in Allen's district too. Actually, I live in District 5. I'm represented by James in District 6, just because the road divides the district. And I think that it's important to have communities of interest, even if it's Mount Herbert or Pownell. I mean, we all support the Pownell Sports Center. Our children in Pownell go to the same school. I think if you have people, and not that we're opposed to Vernon River in any way, shape, or form. I used to live in Avondale at one time. So, I mean, it's a beautiful area, but we feel that they would be better represented, because I'm sure the minister, the MLA is probably conflicted a little bit in trying to represent his constituents, that the majority of them are even if they're 50-50 in rural versus urban. So I don't know. I can't speak to it personally, but I would say there would be some conflict there.
Thank you. Hello.
Good evening. My name's Steve Ogden. I'm a counselor. Steve Ogden. I'm a counselor here in Stratford. And I'd just like to support what Mayor Dunphy is saying. I think that we are definitely a community of interest, because our priorities, issues, and things that really are important to our residents are quite different from islanders who may live just a few miles or a few kilometers or a couple of kilometers away. Obviously, rural issues, and we're all islanders. I don't want to drive the wedge that we want more than rural islanders do, but we just want to be represented, one vote to be the same here as it is in any area. And I think once you get away from that root of democracy, you get into a whole lot of difficulties. And right now, I think we're into some domains that are really not that comfortable for a lot of people, but really, when you come down to just basic fairness, we really deserve to be represented, one person, one vote, the same here as any other district on PEI. We've got a number of priorities that we've been trying to move on our agenda ahead, and it's no disrespect to any of our representation in the provincial legislature, but it's more difficult when those voices are blended in with voices from outside the community who may not share the same priorities and interests. So for that reason, I really think that we do need to have two districts, and we need to have them set at a rate that will take into account our growth. Because otherwise, the next election will be in the same boat, and our votes won't be worth as much as votes in other areas. So thank you very much.
Please, someone else. I don't want to go home yet. That's right.
I'm just trying to make sure you get to that vignette game in time.
We haven't very often had this big a crowd, so we really want to make use of it. Now, please feel free if you've got anything further to add, and we're not in a rush, so take your time, and even after we're done, if you want to get Terry to move some boundaries around there and show what they might look like.
We could try that for a while. And I just want to say a couple more words. And we appreciate the sensitivities of rural versus urban. And we're not here, as Councillor Ogden said, we're not here to take anything away from rural. All we're saying is that where Stratford is now and where we're going, we just feel that our interests would be better represented in the provincial legislature if we had two urban ridings, or for the most part, to represent us. And that would, by having two urban ridings, splitting the town, it would give the growth, split the growth evenly into the two districts rather than into one, which it will be based on both of your maps here. So I wouldn't mind seeing some of the changes of the boundaries and what they look like. Is the population numbers taken into consideration? Will the population numbers change? Okay. Why don't you show my map and we'll see what it looks like with the population, see if I'm not telling fibs here.
Okay.
Take a minute or two.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Elward.
James Elward, I'm the MLA for District 6, Stratford Kinloch, and just while Terry's adjusting the boundaries, it's not so much my opinion, but I'm bringing forward some comments that quite a few people have addressed with me. And essentially, we're going through this exercise now, and I understand it's part of our legislature and the time frame within redrawing the boundaries. Have to say I'm extremely proud to say that I represent the largest district in PEI with the population. However, I do agree with many of the speakers tonight that it is a little bit skewed when you look at one representative representing 45% more than some other districts. However, what people have been bringing forward to me is the whole process that we have gone through with the special committee on electoral reform over the last roughly year and a half, and what is potentially coming down the pipeline in approximately 2.5 years, if we stick to the fixed election date of October 2019. There will be a referendum tied to that provincial election. So even though we're going through this exercise now of redrawing the boundaries, reallocating the number of eligible voters per district, we're still going to have the 27 districts. However, and it's a maybe, it's a strong maybe, that we'll have a completely different electoral system devised when we complete the next election. So I wanted to bring that forward. I promised many constituents that I would bring that forward, so I just want to leave that with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
While it's being calculated, I will say, David said he was from Morel, I'm from Montague, and we don't have, it's not like we have, there's a divide between rural and urban, but young people are coming in to the greater Charlottetown area, including Stratford. When I was going door to door, it was amazing how many people graduate from Montague Regional High. So the young people are coming in, and getting back to the rural and urban going against each other, I believe what we're doing in Stratford is actually good for all of the province, and by doing the planning correctly in here, we're preventing urban sprawl and the loss of agricultural land. So by planning Stratford correctly and getting the population growth, I think the province should be recognizing what we're doing here and having the representation in Stratford. But we also, with that growth, we need the two districts. But by doing planning properly inside of a town rather than having the urban sprawl is actually benefiting rural PEI as well.
Well, there are a lot of build-up in the urban areas of the province, and there's also quite a build-up in areas just adjacent to the urban areas in the province. I think where I come from, out near Pleasant Grove, for example, which is out in my part of the country, used to be all farmland, but now it's become a sort of a bedroom district for Charlottetown, and I think that's happening around a lot of urban areas.
Just so you know, so I've split that district very quickly, roughly, just along the boundary, but I calculated 3,488 electors in this southern district, we'll call it, and 3,012, I think, in the upper, 3,012 in the northern section. So you know, they can be jiggled, the edges can be modified a bit to bring that closer, but the numbers do seem to match closely what you had.
About 32 in each then, we could easily,
Yeah, with some modifications.
with some jigging.
You can make 32 in each.
Yeah.
Quite easily.
We'd need to know where the anticipated growth is going
Yeah,
to be.
we'll have to see where that
that's
is.
what
That's why we'll have to see where that is.
You
Yes.
need to know where that's going.
Yeah.
Here, I've got the
3012.
2012?
Yeah, for the northern part of the town. 3488.
Do you see the growth likely to occur in both sections of your map?
Well, that's something we can talk about. I mean, this is just a discussion.
Yeah, microphone, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Yeah, this is just a discussion. In terms of the growth, see, the core of the town would be in the northern, the north or eastern district, and which has the higher density growth, higher density housing. For example, in that district would be the area behind Home Hardware, which there's currently a subdivision been approved. A number of townhouses there, the former Smallwood property. So that's, we've had, I think there's been four units built last year, and there's more scheduled for this year. And there's a subdivision on the, sort of been discussed that would be in the lower district as well. So the lower district would have mainly single-family homes, whereas the upper northern one would have higher density housing, potentially. At Glenstewart Drive, for example, along the Trans-Canada Highway, there's potential for residential development along the waterfront area, the old Southport Montella property. If there's any expansion at all in Stratford, the area, I'll say behind Mason Road, potentially a residential subdivision. So we could look at that to see where, the numbers are, but I would say even if we cut off, the Clearview Estates as an example, Clearview Estates could easily be in district, in the higher one, in the northern one. So you can definitely play with the numbers.
Okay, yes, I see.
So for example, the guy that was, what's his name,
Chapman, yeah.
so he said he lived in Kippick Road, so is he?
He's in he's in Stratford. He's in Stratford, he's in District 5.
Mr. Chapman, could I just ask you a question? You indicated you're in District 5.
Yes.
So under one of these proposals, where are you?
The one that's on the screen there, I am now in 6.
Okay,
The lower part. Yeah.
so you're, okay,
I'm on the Keppoch Road there, and keep going down with your arrow. Right there, you got it. Yep.
okay.
Right where you want to be.
Right where I want to be.
Okay.
As I said, all my issues are urban issues, and again, I grew up on a farm, so I really know rural issues as well. And basically, rural issues are, let's not develop, let's keep the farmland, no growth. That was our feeling when I was growing up anyway. But certainly different issues here. And I really feel a part of the community of Stratford, and I would like to be a part of the community provincially as well as urban. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Aylward, I know as you said that some people have wanted you to mention what might happen after the next election. However, that's really not something that we can take into account in our work, because the Act requires us to build it as if things are going to remain the same.
Mr. Chair, I completely understand, and as I mentioned in my comments, I understand where the legislation is and what the Act says, but it would be incumbent upon me as an elected representative of my constituents
I completely
not to
understand.
bring their comments
Yeah,
forward, so
yeah.
that, of course, is why I did so.
I'm not meaning any criticism.
No, not at all. Thank you.
Yeah. Any further submissions? Okay.
Steve Ogden, councillor here in Stratford.
Yeah.
Just a further point about that hasn't been made yet, and that is because of the growth in the town, there's a real need for infrastructure, and that is not something that we share with outlying areas. We need a new police station, fire station, emergency services station. We need a new wastewater treatment plant. We need the major redesign of the Mason Road intersection. There's a whole list of things that are needed that are associated with growth, with the growing town. And it's really difficult when those kinds of priorities are mixed in with rural priorities, which are quite different, as other people have mentioned. The stop of the urban sprawl and that sort of thing is really important to rural people. And with us, it's just getting the services that the population needs, and which are equivalent to other urban areas that are represented more closely with the average number of electors. One of the symptoms of this is, we've lost about $1.5 million in our municipal grant, just based on the fact that it's moved to a grant rather than a, it used to be a percentage of our property taxes, and now it's moved to a municipal grant. Our grant is basically the same as Cornwall, which is much smaller in population. As a result, we can't offer that infrastructure. So if we had representation of just the urban issues, I would submit that we would be more able to make the case that we need more infrastructure development in Stratford. And for that reason, the school is a good example. If you go to Glen Stewart, Stratford Elementary, between 8 and 9 in the morning, the traffic is horrific. Like it's really an accident waiting to happen. We need the development of the McKinnon Drive in behind it, or some solution to that problem, which is a major investment. And we need to be able to have those arguments made for us strictly on the basis of urban representation. So for that reason, I think I would argue again.
That map's finished.
Yeah, that may be a sign. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.